You know, sometimes we mistake silence for surrender. We think that if we're not clapping back, not defending ourselves, not posting our side of the story, somehow we've lost. But let me tell you something, silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is strength wrapped in wisdom. There's a difference between being silenced and choosing silence, and that difference is power. Because when you choose silence, you are saying, I don't owe this moment my reaction. I owe my purpose my focus. There are times when God will quiet you down, not because you don't have something to say, but because what you have to say isn't ready yet. He's developing your voice in private before he releases it in public. He's protecting your vision from the noise that could distort it. That's why sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is close your mouth and let God handle the conversation you can't control. Silence doesn't mean you're disengaged. It means you're discerning. It means you've learned to measure the value of your words before you spend them. Because every word costs energy, and energy is a currency you can't afford to waste on confusion. You've got goals to reach, healing to do, peace to protect. And if you're always explaining yourself to people who aren't even trying to understand you, you'll run out of strength before you even start the real race. There are seasons when silence becomes your shield, because not everyone around you is rooting for your revelation. Some people are listening for your weakness, waiting to twist your words, waiting to turn your honesty into gossip. And when you stay silent, when you stop feeding the rumors with reactions, you cut off their supply. You let your stillness confuse the enemy. That's how you protect your anointing. That's how you guard your peace. Sometimes silence is God's classroom. He'll enroll you in a season of isolation just to teach you what noise has been hiding. You'll start to realize how much energy you've wasted trying to prove you're good enough. You'll recognize how much of your voice has been shaped by what people expected from you, instead of what God whispered to you. And in that stillness, he starts reminding you of who you are, without applause, without affirmation, without an audience. That's when you learn that silence doesn't shrink you, it centers you. There's a power that comes when you stop defending your character and start developing your calling. People will say things, they'll misunderstand your silence, they'll assume you're afraid or unsure. But silence is not about fear, it's about focus. You're not quiet because you don't care, you're quiet because you're building. You're not silent because you're broken. You're silent because you're strengthening the foundation before you speak again. There's a difference between being muted and being in preparation, and sometimes that preparation hurts. Because you want to explain yourself, you want to be understood, you want them to see your heart, your intentions, your truth. But the moment you step into divine maturity, you realize clarity doesn't come from convincing people. It comes from consistency. You let your life preach what your lips don't need to say. You let your growth become your statement. Because when you come out of that season of silence, you won't need to shout. The fruit will speak for itself. If you've ever had to bite your tongue when you knew you could have set the record straight, listen, that was not weakness. That was wisdom. That was restraint rooted in vision. Every time you choose peace over pettiness, you prove that you trust God more than you trust your emotions. And that kind of trust doesn't go unnoticed. Heaven honors that kind of stillness because silence isn't empty, it's pregnant. It's carrying your next level. It's where revelation is conceived. You see, noise feels powerful in the moment, but it rarely builds anything lasting. Noise feeds ego, silence feeds purpose. Noise wants to be seen, silence wants to understand, and when you shift from needing to be heard to needing to be healed, that's when transformation begins. Because it's in silence that you finally hear your own soul again. It's in silence that you recognize how far you've come, how much you've grown, how much strength it took to not say what you could have said. There's a kind of quiet that doesn't come from lack. It comes from overflow. You've cried enough. You've fought enough. You've explained enough. Now you're walking in a peace that doesn't need validation. People might call it distance, but you call it discipline. Because you're not running away. You're running within. You're retreating into the presence of God, where your next instruction lies. And when you come out, you'll speak with precision, not pain. So if you're in that season right now where your silence feels misunderstood, where people think your quiet means you've given up, remember this. Even Jesus stayed silent before his accusers. Not because he didn't have an answer, but because the cross was his answer. His silence was the setup for resurrection. So maybe your silence right now is not the end of your story. Maybe it's the soil of your comeback. There will come a moment when your silence will break. And when it does, it won't be a reaction, it'll be revelation. The words you'll speak then will carry weight, because they'll be born from reflection, not from rage. They'll come from healing, not from hurt. And everyone who doubted your quiet will have to sit and watch what your silence built. So don't despise the stillness, don't rush the hush, there's purpose in the pause. Because sometimes the loudest thing you'll ever say is nothing at all. You ever notice how easy it is to get distracted when you're right on the edge of something great? The moment you start aligning with purpose, it's like everything around you starts competing for your attention. The noise gets louder, the opinions multiply, and suddenly your focus becomes the most valuable thing you own. Because focus is the currency of growth, you can't buy progress with talent alone. You buy it with attention, with consistency, with discipline. And if your focus is scattered, your destiny will be too. You've got to learn to protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. The world will try to convince you that being busy means you're being productive. But let me tell you something, busyness is not the same as progress. You can be running in circles, chasing validation, proving yourself to people who were never assigned to your purpose, and still end up standing in the same place emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Growth doesn't come from doing everything, it comes from doing the right thing with intentionality. When you start to focus yourself, you start to see what truly matters. You realize not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every invitation deserves your attendance. You stop showing up everywhere because you finally understood that your presence is precious. You can't build something divine if you're constantly distracted by what's merely good. Sometimes God will close doors that look like blessings just to help you protect your focus. Because he knows that where he's taking you, your energy can't afford to be divided. Focusing yourself requires you to get honest about what's draining you. There are people, habits, and patterns that survive only because you keep feeding them attention. You can't expect peace when your energy is still tied to things that serve your insecurity instead of your destiny. Focus demands boundaries. It requires you to say no without guilt and not now without apology. Because the truth is, not every battle deserves your response, not every conversation deserves your explanation, and not every season deserves your presence. Some things only look urgent because they're trying to distract you from what's important. You've got to train your spirit to recognize the difference between noise and instruction. The enemy doesn't always come to destroy. Sometimes he comes to distract. He'll send counterfeit opportunities, meaningless arguments, and unnecessary chaos just to keep your eyes off what truly matters. That's why focusing yourself is not just a mental act. It's spiritual warfare. You're fighting for your destiny every time you choose discipline over drama. You're choosing your calling every time you walk away from confusion and back into clarity. Sometimes focusing yourself means being misunderstood. People will think you've changed, that you've become distant or prideful. But you haven't changed. You've just stopped chasing what doesn't chase purpose. You're learning that you don't have to attend every emotional invitation that comes your way. You don't have to defend your decision to evolve. When you start focusing yourself, you stop explaining yourself, because real focus doesn't announce itself. It just produces results. And listen, focus isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about waking up every day and choosing to give your attention to the things that matter most. It's about forgiving yourself for the distractions you once entertained and recommitting to your growth anyway. You're not behind, you're just being refined. Sometimes God slows you down not to punish you, but to make sure you don't build fast and fail early. He's teaching you how to build with intention, not impulse. There's a rhythm that comes when you focus yourself. Life stops feeling like chaos and starts feeling like clarity. You begin to notice that peace is not the absence of noise, it's the mastery of focus in the middle of it. You start choosing stillness instead of scrolling. You start listening instead of reacting. You start learning instead of comparing. And in that quiet focus, you find power you didn't even know you had. Every great move of your life will require a sacrifice of distraction. If you're praying for elevation, you've got to prepare for elimination. You can't take everything and everyone with you where you're going. Some connections are seasonal, some habits are outdated, some versions of you can't survive the focus your future demands. That's not rejection, that's refinement. God is trimming your life so you can bear fruit that lasts. So when you feel the pull to focus, don't fight it. Don't run back to the noise just because silence feels uncomfortable. Growth often feels lonely at first because focus separates you from the familiar, but it's in that separation that strength is born. You'll start realizing that every time you focus, you hear God clearer. You move with more intention. You recover your peace. You remember your why. That's when you know you're on the right path. Focus is not just about looking forward, it's about letting go. You've got to release the distractions, the expectations, the comparisons, and the need for constant approval. Because focus thrives where faith lives. It's trusting that if you keep your eyes on purpose, everything else will fall into place. You don't need to chase what's already assigned to you. You just need to stay aligned long enough for it to manifest. So yes, distraction will come, but so will discernment. You'll start seeing what used to tempt you and realizing it's too small for the version of you that's becoming. You'll stop settling for moments that steal your focus and start creating moments that build your future. And when you do that, you'll discover something powerful. You don't have to prove yourself anymore. You just have to be yourself focused, grounded, and faithful. Because at the end of the day, focus is not about what you're doing. It's about who you're becoming while you're doing it. And if you can master that, if you can protect your attention and guard your peace, then nothing can stop your growth. The same God who called you is the same God who will sustain you, as long as you stay focused. There comes a moment in your journey when you realize that peace isn't something that just happens to you. It's something you have to guard with intention. The kind of peace that settles your heart, quiets your mind, and anchors your soul doesn't show up by accident. You have to protect it like it's sacred because it is, and once you've tasted real peace, the kind that no applause, no approval, no relationship can replace, you'll do anything to keep it. You see, when you don't value your peace, you end up entertaining chaos that was never meant to have a seat at your table. You start letting anyone and anything pull on your energy, your emotions, your time. But protecting your peace doesn't mean you've become cold. It means you've finally matured enough to understand that not every battle is yours to fight. Sometimes growth sounds like silence, looks like distance, and feels like release. It's not bitterness, it's boundaries. Protecting your peace means learning how to stop renting space in your spirit to people who thrive on confusion. It's learning to walk away without needing to prove your point. It's choosing not to respond, not because you don't care, but because you've realized peace is more expensive than pride. Every time you decide not to match someone's energy, you're protecting your peace. Every time you choose prayer over pettiness, you're protecting your peace. Every time you say, I don't need to argue about this, you're protecting your peace. There's something powerful about reaching a place where you no longer crave drama to feel alive. When peace becomes your priority, your spirit starts detoxing from chaos. The same situations that used to steal your joy will lose their power. You'll stop replaying old conversations in your mind, trying to rewrite endings that were never meant to be fixed. You'll start sleeping better, breathing easier, and loving deeper because peace makes room for clarity, and clarity invites healing. Protecting your peace also means being intentional about your environment. Who you surround yourself with matters. Some people bring storms, others bring stillness. You've got to discern the difference. Don't confuse familiar with safe. Just because you've known someone for years doesn't mean they deserve unlimited access to your peace. Sometimes God will call you to love people from a distance, not because they're evil, but because their energy isn't aligned with your assignment. And that's okay. Love doesn't always require proximity. When you start protecting your peace, you'll notice that life starts feeling quieter. You'll have fewer arguments, fewer explanations, fewer distractions. But don't mistake that quiet for loneliness. That quiet is God giving you space to breathe. It's Him separating you from noise so you can hear His voice again. Because sometimes the chaos outside is just a reflection of the chaos within. And when you protect your peace, you give God permission to calm the storm in your soul before He calms the storm around you. Protecting your peace requires courage. It's not easy to walk away from what's familiar, even when it's toxic. It takes strength to set boundaries when people are used to your yes. But here's the truth. The same peace that costs you comfort will save your calling. Every no you give in obedience is an investment in your future peace. Every time you choose healing over history, you're sowing seeds for a harvest of wholeness. There's a maturity that comes when you stop reacting to everything. You start realizing that not every comment deserves your energy, not every opinion deserves your explanation. When you finally understand that peace is not passive, it's powerful, you stop letting small things shake big purpose. The enemy can't destroy you, so he'll try to distract you. He'll use irritation, offense, comparison, anything to pull you out of your peace. But when you stay grounded, when you respond with grace instead of emotion, you win without fighting. Sometimes protecting your peace means standing still when everything in you wants to respond. It means letting people think what they want to think while you stay focused on what God told you to do. It means trusting that silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't have to prove your worth to people who can't see your value. Your peace is proof enough. The moment you stop explaining yourself to the wrong audience, you free yourself to show up fully for the right one. And here's the beautiful thing. When you start valuing your peace, peace starts valuing you. It begins to meet you in places that used to overwhelm you. You'll find calm where you used to panic, faith where you used to fear, and contentment where you used to chase. That's the reward of guarding your spirit. You start attracting what matches your peace instead of what threatens it. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's stewardship. You're taking care of the mind, the heart, the spirit that God trusted you with. You're saying, I take my calling seriously enough to protect the vessel that carries it. Because peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of perspective. It's the awareness that even if everything around you shakes, the peace within you remains unbothered. So the next time someone tries to pull you into chaos, remind yourself, my peace is sacred. When the past comes knocking, whisper, I've healed from that. When life gets loud, find your quiet again, because your peace is not negotiable. It's not up for debate. It's the evidence that you've grown, that you've learned, that you've survived enough storms to finally appreciate the still waters. Guard it fiercely, hold it close. And never apologize for choosing peace over pressure, purpose over people, and stillness over noise. Because peace is the promise that you're walking in alignment with something greater than yourself. There's a time in your journey when talking just won't do anymore. You've said enough. You've explained enough. You've defended, clarified, and reasoned until your throat was dry and your spirit was tired. And then, somewhere in the middle of all that noise, you realize that your growth doesn't need a press release. You understand that the most powerful testimony isn't in what you say, it's in what you show. Let your results speak louder than your words. There's a quiet confidence that comes when you stop trying to convince people and start building in peace. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your process when your fruit will be the proof. Sometimes the best response is consistency. Sometimes the loudest message is progress. You can't argue with results. You can't debate with transformation. People can question your silence, but they can't deny your growth. The truth is, there are some seasons where God will tell you, just work. Not talk about it, not post about it, not announce it, just asterisk do it asterisk. Because when you talk too soon, you invite voices that weren't meant to shape what's still developing. You give access to people who don't have the faith to understand what God is doing in you. So he hides you. He lets your progress marinate in the dark. And when it's time, when the work is complete and the lesson is learned, he brings you out shining with evidence. You won't have to prove yourself. Your progress will do that for you. We live in a world where everyone wants to be seen before they're ready. But real power doesn't come from being visible. It comes from being rooted. The seed doesn't brag while it's underground. It's silent, it's unseen, but it's growing, it's stretching, it's preparing to break through. That's what happens when you let your results speak. You stop seeking validation from people who can't comprehend your process and start trusting that what's happening beneath the surface is sacred. Let me tell you, growth that's birthed in silence carries authority when it speaks. You don't have to shout to be heard when your life already carries a sound. You can walk into a room and your peace announces your presence before your mouth does. You can stand in front of people who doubted you and they'll see the difference without you saying a word. Because transformation speaks a language louder than defense. It's called evidence, so keep showing up. Keep working, keep building. You don't have to advertise your faithfulness for it to be real. God sees what's done in secret. He rewards the consistency no one clapped for. Every time you stayed up late chasing purpose instead of attention, he saw it. Every time you bit your tongue and chose grace over reaction, he recorded it. Every time you kept going when nobody noticed, heaven noticed. And that's why when the harvest comes, no one will be able to say they gave it to you. Your results will testify for you. There's something freeing about no longer needing to prove your value. When you stop performing for validation, you start living from purpose. You realize you don't have to convince anyone of your calling, just carry it. You don't have to explain why you're different, just be different. You don't have to broadcast your every move, just move with intention. The evidence will come, it always does. And when it does, it'll speak in ways your words never could. You've got to stop getting distracted by the need to be understood. Let misunderstanding motivate your movement. Every time someone underestimates you, let that fuel your discipline. Every time you're counted out, remember that God specializes in using what people overlook. They didn't see your pain. They didn't see the nights you prayed for direction. They didn't see the tears behind the scenes, but they will see the fruit. Because when your results speak, they tell a story only God could have written. Sometimes the silence of your work makes people think you've stopped, when really you've just shifted. You've gone from proving to producing, from reacting to rebuilding, from defending to demonstrating. That's maturity, that's focus, that's peace in action, and you don't have to rush the revelation, because what's real doesn't fade when it's quiet. It deepens. Don't underestimate what's happening in your hidden season. Every step you take, every lesson you learn, every quiet yes you give to God, it's building credibility in heaven. It's establishing something that can't be shaken when the spotlight hits, because if you can stay humble in obscurity, you'll stay grounded in success. And when that success shows up, you won't need to say, "I told you so." You'll just smile because the fruit said it for you. So don't be discouraged if people don't recognize what you're doing right now. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for the version of you that prayed for this kind of focus. You're doing it for the promise you made to yourself when you decided to stop settling. You're doing it for the purpose that won't let you quit. The results will come, and when they do, the same mouths that doubted you will be forced to acknowledge what your silence built. There's no need to defend your destiny when your results will be undeniable. The same God who called you will confirm you. The same one who let you be silent is the one who will let your work shout. So let your results speak louder than your explanations. Let your transformation preach louder than your pain. Let your growth tell the story that your words never could. Because in the end, the most powerful sound you'll ever make is the one your life produces.